Hello there. This is James, and you're watching OneRoyal, and it's live. In today's program, I want to talk about Trump leaving the building and the implications of that. The fact that we are looking at escalation, not de-escalation, between Israel and Iran, and as well as that, Trump loves the UK. But before we get into all of that, don't forget, these little videos are for educational purposes only, and in no way whatsoever should ever be taken as financial advice. So I always suggest you do your own research, do your own due diligence, and of course, there are the risks at hand before entering any trade. With that out of the way, let's get started. So indeed, Trump actually left the G7 early. Obviously the group of 7 leaders, or the big leaders, or like 7 most advanced and powerful economies meeting in Canada, he left it early. Sacrificing meetings he was supposed to have with Zelensky of Ukraine and the Mexican president. Now, he left the G7 early, straight after the state dinner yesterday, and the reason for him leaving early was to deal with the Israel and Iran conflict. When aboard Air Force One, he was asked by reporters what was the goal of him leaving to go to, obviously, back to Washington to deal with this ongoing crisis. His reply was this: an end. A real end, not a ceasefire, an end. What does that mean? You know, there was a lot of hope that this G7 meeting, like a number of the countries actually, did say we want a de-escalation from this conflict. There was a hope that this G7 meeting would actually, indicate potential de-escalation of the conflict between Israel and Iran. Trump leaving early to deal with it sounds like he has no intention of de-escalating this current conflict. He went on to say this as well. He said, I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in the mood to negotiate. I thought he was the ultimate deal maker, but now he's not in the mood to do a deal. So again, this is very, very ominous, very scary words, which, obviously, understandably, is beginning to worry a lot of people and the market. Trump also, he doubled down on this as well, which adds to the concern. Trump also calls for the evacuation of Iran's capital city, Tehran, telling people to get out. So what does he know? What does he know? So again, we're entering the 5th day of this conflict between Israel and Iran, the 5th day of missile strikes between each other and jets, and jets bombing, etc. And like I say, we had a lot of hope of de-escalation of this conflict coming from the G7, or hints that we could get that. But no, instead, the market is indeed spooked, mainly by Trump's words, mainly by what Trump is indicating. We don't know what it means, but it doesn't sound like a ceasefire. It sounds more like a warning, if anything else. So yes, this has indeed, of course, spooked the markets. Yesterday, we had a bit of optimism, that this conflict won't widen throughout the region. But today, that optimism has disappeared. As well as that, there's this G7 has proved to be disappointing on another factor, not just Trump's early departure, to handle or to, increase the temperature on this situation, But there was a lot of hope for some trade deals or indication of some trade deals being made during the G7 because Liberation Day 2.0 is soon approaching. Because don't forget, this temporary pause on these reciprocal tariffs expires on the 9th of July, which is only 3 weeks away. So the question's being asked is, where are the deals? We're 3 weeks away. And what happens at midnight on the 9th? Are we literally going to see Liberation Day 2.0? Where are the deals? Oh, we have one. Oh, we have one. Well, one partially signed on the dotted line. One partially signed on the dotted line. But like I said before in previous programs, this is the easiest deal for the US to do. And that is the US-UK deal. Apparently it's done. It's done. Standing alongside Prime Minister Starmer, Trump said, we've just signed it and it's done. Now, this deal obviously means lower tariff rates on cars from the UK and steel exports from the UK to the US. Steel, okay, is interesting, but cars, to be fair, the UK sells about 100,000 cars to the United States a year. It's not a huge number. They're not massively known for their car manufacturing, and the cars they do sell to the US are, Bentleys and Aston Martins and things of this nature, the high-end type of cars, Rolls Royces, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, okay. All right, low stuff in steel. Again, we haven't got the UK haven't got much of a steel industry anymore. We're still going to make a difference. But like I said before on this program, this is the easiest trade deal to do. The reason why it's the easiest trade deal to do is because the trade surplus between the UK and the US, which is a thing that President Trump has a real problem with. He doesn't like the surplus of trade. He doesn't like it. It really annoys him. It's a bee in his bonnet, so to speak. Drives him mad. But the trade surplus between the UK and US is pretty balanced. There's not a big surplus. So it was the easiest deal to do and get over the line. And here's the other thing. This is the other reason why this deal was easy to do and why this deal is, I say partially done. There's still a couple of little bits. It's been signed partially. Most of it has. Let's do a few little bits and pieces. But anyway, there's another reason why this deal was so easy to do. And this is either a master stroke by Prime Minister Starmer on this, or I think it's maybe, I don't know. Anyway, you make up your own mind on that. But the other reason why this is such an easy deal to do is because when asked if the UK was protected from further tariffs in the future, Trump said this: the UK is very well protected. You know why? Because I like them. That's their ultimate protection. Yes. So he likes the UK. That's why. So, like, again, okay, maybe a master play by Prime Minister Starmer, master play by King Charles III as well, inviting him over for another state visit. But apparently, he really likes the UK. So that's also helped with this UK-US deal because he likes the UK. Anyway, but like I said, this is the easiest deal. It's the easiest deal. Where's the rest? Where's the rest? We've only got, like I said before, we've only got 3 weeks. 3 weeks till potentially Liberation 2.0 kicks in. Now, when asked in reference to the EU, and this is big because EU is a massive trading partner with the US, Trump said this. We're talking, but I don't feel that they're offering a fair deal yet. Don't forget, yesterday's program had discussed a report from a German newspaper saying about the deal with the EU, where they're going to say happy to pay 10% tariffs across the board on all goods and try and make it easier for American car manufacturers to sell their cars by reducing tariffs, but also by changing legal and technical concerns they have, like restrictions. Because like I said before, like I said in yesterday's program, US cars are a lot bigger than European cars, and the roads are a lot smaller than Europe than in the United States. And plus, some of the vehicles don't fit the safety standards of the EU. Anyway, like I said, he feels they're not offering a fair deal. They're either going to make a good deal or they just pay whatever will say they have to pay. Now, this is a big deal for the EU, okay? And obviously, we're going to look at the euro in a bit. But if you look, EU is the top trading partner, okay? One of the largest trading relationships, okay, with the US, okay? That's the number of exports to blue, or what they do, and these are the number of imports they take in from the US. So this is big business. There's a lot of money for the EU. Okay, so it's the fact that this is a major stumbling block. Okay, and it could be a really big issue for the European Union if, like I say, we can't get this over the line. But this is a thing. But anyway, so EU, no ground at the moment really made with the EU. He was then asked in reference to Japan, another major trading partner with the United States, another major trading partner. And he had this to say about Japan. He said, they're tough. The Japanese are tough. But ultimately, you have to understand, we are just going to send a letter saying this is what you're going to pay. So, again, no real development or ground being made with trade deals. So again, G7 is proven to be, a very disappointing in many ways with the trade, any hints of trade deals being made, but also really disappointing the fact that this whole point of the G7, the top agenda was to de-escalate Israel and Iran, but instead it appears that it's just been escalated. Instead, the opposite. So anyway, I want to move on to something else. That's the G7 covered, and that's the recent developments on that. But now something else has happened today, which is interesting. Again, I want your opinions, I want your views on this, guys. Are we actually now finally seeing the real tariff effect? And the reason why I say this, and I talked about this a fair bit, is that the US retail sales was announced today. Negative 0.9% versus negative 0.6% expected. Now, the previous reading was 1%. Basically, this is indicated that, in a nutshell, the tariff run, or the big boost in sales to try and beat the tariffs before they kicked in, has ended, is finished, is done. And this brings me to the other point I want to make on this. I've said this before, because we had the inflation reading last week, which came in lower than expected. And I said, well, there could be a couple of theories on this. A, for one, we could have plenty of inventories. Or secondly, the reason why we're not seeing a big jump in inflation yet because of tariffs is simply because people aren't spending their money so much, because they're worried about prices and they're saving their cash. However, the biggest drop was gasoline sales, which fell by 2%, 3.5% slide in auto purchases, and 2.7% decline in building materials. Again, that does, of course, make sense, because obviously we got 25% tariffs on a lot of cars coming in the United States now as well. And of course, we've got, 25% on aluminium and steel, building materials. So that's, of course, going to make an impact. So my question to you, good people, and please let me know your thoughts on this. Is this finally really beginning to see the tariff effect? Are we finally beginning to see it? Is it finally kicking in? Anyway, enough of that. Let's go and quick look at the market, see how the market's reacting, to the retail sales report, but also to this slight fear of escalation, and lack of trade deals being announced. So let's pull the market up now and have a quick look Start off with the S&P 500, of course. Again, like I say, we did have a bit of optimism yesterday, but today it's open lower with a gap. It's still trading, still holding. It's not like total collapse. It's still only negative 0.21% on the S&P 500. Still trading around 6,020 points, but again, it's got that positivity which we had has gone away. The positivity which we did have on the Monday before, obviously, the rot, or before, obviously, the conflict started on Friday. Daily, though, like I say, not a drastic change from the continuous bull run, really. But again, we have got a lack of optimism and more fear once again on the market. If we look at the Nasdaq as well, okay, Nasdaq is the same, has opened lower at 0.27%, again lower with a gap, again with fear of escalation. And at the same time, if we have a look at the Dow as well, again, all right, not so bad. It's still down 0.11%, nothing really, is it? Only down 47 points. And like I said, we can have a look at the Mag 7 quickly. Tesla down slightly, 0.12%. Meta down 0.43%. Microsoft down 0.68%. Amazon down. No, Amazon is up slightly, actually. Alphabet 0.49%. Apple down 0.35%. So again, like I say, not disastrous, but not in a happy place. Everything is sliding. It's a shame based on the fact that everything was optimistic yesterday. Let's go to gold straight away. Of course, it wouldn't be a show of mine if I didn't talk about gold. Gold, of course, its safe haven status did kick in with Trump going back and worrying about escalation of it, as you can see. However, since then, it is still up for the day, but again, it's fairly tepid. But that bull run is still really, really impressive and holding for gold. So yes, safe haven status is still very much with the yellow metal. If we look at currencies now, again, slightly weaker euro because we've got a stronger dollar. Safe haven status, once again, not dramatic, but again, slightly stronger greenback on that. We can say the same about the cable as well. Okay, still trading on 135, weather, but so still performing really well. It's just slightly stronger dollar on the safe haven status. And of course, you can see that with a dollar index today back above 98. But again, still hovering around those sort of 2-year lows still. So still weaker dollar overall, but today a slight comeback because of its being a safe haven. That's all. Other stuff happening this week. This is what's happened today. Let's talk about what's happening this week, and more importantly, what's due tomorrow, which is going to be really interesting, and I want to talk to you guys about. So first off, let's go on tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow? Not massively exciting, not massively important, but still it's important if you're a cable trader. And that, of course, is the UK and EU Consumer Price Index. That's going to be overshadowed because the big event happening tomorrow, the big thing tomorrow, is going to be the Fed interest rate decision and press conference. That's the thing. That's the one. Now, like I said already, we've had positive data. Inflation cooling, labor market showing signs of being stable. Consumer confidence last week bounced back to 60.5 from 52.2 previous. So the consumers are happy, apart from the retail sales down today. Okay, personal, drastic. But again, will the Fed cut interest rates? Trump will be putting pressure on Powell. He has been doing so for a very, very long time. Very long time. Plus, you now mix in to this pot, this geopolitical issues you have between Israel and Iran. Will this push the Fed over and actually cut rates? In my opinion, and many analysts' opinions, tomorrow, I don't think they will. I think they'll hold steady to wait to see, because they're, Powell and his committee have always been a wait and see type decision making type bankers. asset bankers. Okay, always been on one of the wait and see type of central bankers. So I think it's most likely, and most people have are priced in the fact that I don't think they will be likely to cut rates, but doesn't mean it won't be interesting, because afterwards, of course, we have the press conference, and that may prove to be very interesting, because the press conference will give us hints of what they think will happen for the remainder of the year and when they may finally pull the trigger and cut interest rates. Plus, their opinion on obviously the tariff effect, why we haven't really seen it, apart from maybe a little bit today with retail sales, and their opinion on the geopolitical events affecting the US economy. So that'd be another thing. So the press conference indeed will be exciting. And it'd be interesting to see as well what insults and, anger this decision. Like I say, I'm pretty much sure. And the market has sort of like really priced in maybe 97% chance that they're not cutting rates tomorrow. But it'd be interesting to see Trump's reaction as well afterwards. After that, okay, obviously we've got Thursday. We've got a couple of events on Thursday. The S&B interest rate decision and a Bank of England interest rate decision, all overshadowed by the Fed and by obviously what's going on geopolitical wise. Don't forget, this is indeed a live show, so you can ask me questions anytime you wish. Or more importantly, what I really like is hearing your opinions, hearing what you think. What do you think about Trump leaving the G7 early? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think this is a proper escalation, or what, going on over there? Let me know your thoughts, or let me know what you're trading, what asset you're trading, or you're a big fan of trading, you're looking at, etc. Let me know your ideas. The other thing as well, if you're not a member or part of the OneRoyal family, then and you want to find out a bit more about us, by all means, there's a little link in the description below. Click on the link and have a look about us and find out more. And maybe you want to join the family. It's up to you. As well as that, if you're watching me on YouTube and you like this sort of thing, by all means, subscribe if you like. Hit the notification button so you know next time I'm going live. And if you enjoyed this type of content and you put up with me, over the top enthusiasm, by all means, give me one of those. It's nice to know that you like what we do. The other thing I want to quickly mention as well, I know there's a lot of people go back and watch the recordings afterwards, which is great. Mr. Live shows, I watch the recording, I don't mind. It's great. Any type of support, that's great. What I will say though, if you do have a question or do have a comment, put it in the comment section below. I will see it and I will reply to it next time I go live on air, which of course will be tomorrow, because we go live practically every single day. Anywho, if there is no questions, not a problem. Leaves me to say, till next time, don't forget, these little videos are for educational purposes only, and in no way whatsoever should ever be taken as financial advice. So I always suggest you do your own research, do your due diligence, and of course, know the risks at hand before entering any trade. Till next time, every single one of you, trade safe.